The Monogamy Debate. Monogamy Debate Introduction. I don't believe that BS they call sociology, studying societies, because every human being is alone. Not one human being knows what's going on in the mind of another, yet we pretend we can study large groups of people and come up with useful, practical knowledge about them. Everything is unique to a situation and the people at hand, so I don't buy into anyone's bullshit about human life being some kind of formal science. Anyone can muse and rant like I do, but they're just the rantings of one man. There is no big box of knowledge out there that supposedly defines life for us. I think for myself and make my own decisions. I studied ancient history because I wanted to learn if the historical record paralleled the claims Zecharia Sitchin made in his 1976 book The 12th Planet about some ancient space travelers called the Anunnaki landing on Earth from the planet Nibiru to genetically create the human race. Sitchin.com. I studied the Sumerian dynasty, Egyptian civilization, then went to the Old Testament in the Bible and a world anthology of human history. The guy at kamikala.com/vamakara.htm talks about how women were firstly the nurturing leaders, then men took over as aggressive, violent people, and we lost our way. The facts are that human males are naturally aggressive and horny because of the hormone testosterone. People started controlling other people very early within the human race through religion, pretending they were gods or superior in some way, and physical force by building groups of thugs or marauders to beat others up, take their stuff and control them. Somewhere along the way, people started living together in close proximity. The wise people realized they had to control the people somehow, make them pacified and productive. Did marriage and family arise out of love or from a societal need by the few dictators at the top to control people? Men in their natural state are callous, selfish sex addicts like Vikings plundering other people for stuff and sex. They don't care about relationships or kids. They want sex. They don't want to talk to women or have an emotional relationship. Some people study monkeys. They say they're having promiscuous sex. The females are smart. They have sex with anybody who is willing to give them food, a place to sleep, protection, etc. What's more natural than a monogamous marriage is polygamy, a guy having several wives to help him satisfy his sex drive, but that's taboo in modern Western society. It's not taboo in China or in the Muslim nations. How many love songs did I hear growing up? Fictional TV shows are pretty well all about monogamous relationships. I remember the Bonanza episode where the Chinese cook fell in love with the white girl, but old Ben Cartwright said they can't marry because it's the law. How could I have possibly grown up thinking my own thoughts? I couldn't. I didn't. I grew up thinking I was going to get married and have kids. Then when I became an adult, I fell in love, but I was also a sex addict. Then I fell out of love not just once but several times. Do you have a neurotic need to be in a relationship, married with kids? Think about what's normal for you in your own purity as an individual. Almost all men have incredible sex drives that they need to quell all the time. If a man loves a woman, he can't be panting up to her asking her to do all the sexy degrading things he wants. A lot of men get horny by doing degrading acts with women. It's a fact of life. Secondly, the monogamy dream is always there on TV anytime I want to watch it. I'm watching a dating type show with all the players under 35 dreamily thinking that romantic love will solve all their life problems. The truth is that relationships are usually hard. The love and passion fades very quickly. I think it's natural for attraction to fade. It's not just the Coolidge effect. I think the human soul is always looking for the next thrill or new novel thing, and this extends to people, especially in this high-tech disposable society we live in, where you can go on Tinder to see all the singles and marrieds looking for something. Most marriages aren't what the players expected after the first year. Chapter 1. Monogamy 1. Is monogamy natural? 1. Women are looking for one man to be with. Men are looking at every woman to satisfy their one need. Is monogamy monotonous? Love has been in perpetual strife with monogamy. Ellen Key. Monogamy is a nice ideal, but things get in the way, like man's pure, Unadulterated sex drive. Love, the strongest and deepest element in all life, the harbinger of hope, of joy, of ecstasy. Love, the definer of all laws, of all conventions. Love, the freest, the most powerful molder of human destiny. How can this all-encompassing force be synonymous with that poor little state and church, begotten weed, marriage? Emma Goldman. Marriage and love, accursed from their birth they may be, who seek to find monogamy, pursuing it from bed to bed. I think they would be better dead. Dorothy Parker. Hogamaus, Higamaus. Men are polygamous. Higamaus, Hogamaus, women monogamous. Lois Gould. Such good friends. The elephant might take on one lover for life and the wolf and eagle too, but in general, men feel more like a lion. Screw anything attractive that will let them in without too many hassles, then move on to the next one, unhassled and unconcerned about raising kids. It's like that statement Oscar Hammerstein too made in The King and I. A woman must be like a blossom, with honey for just one man. A man must be like a honeybee, and gather all he can, to fly from blossom to blossom. The honeybee must be free, but blossom must not ever fly from bee to bee to bee. Philip Roth described the dilemma of a young man in Portnoy's complaint as being torn between desires that are repugnant to my conscience and a conscience repugnant to my desires. Most of us are brought up to be Christian and monogamous. After we get married, a lot of discover that we can't just shut off all those sexual thoughts we usually get to focus them on one person. Sexual attractions and desires ebb and flow. I have new sexual desires all the time. I have to listen to what I feel inside of me, not what somebody else taught me to do. I believe that monogamous love is cultural indoctrination, not biological inclination, which is why I believe a lot of young and older people don't really want romantic love for what it is. What they want is to be in love so bad as they see it portrayed all over the media that they get into flimsy, superficial relationships and call it love, or desperately want love so bad that they try to make their flimsy relationships love, but it's like creating pseudo-love when there's no real love there. Animals generally mate then go it alone their own way, except for birds, whales, elephants, wolves, a few monkey species, and that's it. Is monogamy a natural attribute we got from nature, or something we got by living in our culture and imitating everything we see? The closest our biologists have come is to classify humans as facultatively monogamous, which means that we're monogamous in situations where it would be tough for the woman to raise her kids on her own without the support of a husband. The man does the honorable thing and follows society's mores, but in a society like our current one in the West, many single women can go it alone, which is probably why men now sleep around as much as they ever did throughout human history. The resulting consensus is that humans are considered almost monogamous. Monogamy may have developed partially in our ancient past because it was too tough on the men to fight each other all the time to get to screw the chicks they wanted to, which ended up in a chronic shortage of men to hunt and protect the tribe, since they were always killing each other off in fights for women. So some wise elders created monogamy, or more probably polygamy, first to stabilize the tribe more than it evolved to monogamy. Women are not entirely monogamous either. The general reasoning behind their cheating ways is that they are varying the gene pool, which is always a good thing for the development of the human race, but men hate their wives cheating way more than the woman hates the husband cheating, because to him, it could mean that he is expending a lot of energy raising kids that are not his own, plus the fact that men have testosterone, which tends to make them aggressive, angry, and jealous. To be cheated on by another man is unacceptable to a traditional man's man. In the old days, the wife was considered the man's property. If another man slept with her, he was sometimes punished for stealing the man's property. This theft was considered an insult to the husband, who would often kill the man and kill his own wife too, since she was now damaged goods. In a sense, this line of reasoning was good for the concept of monogamy because it made men possessive of their own special girl and cemented the bond. Incidentally, the concept of killing a cheating man and one's own wife, called in flagrant delicto, was legal and common in the Latino culture until about 40 years ago. Monogamy may work for some people, but all men are lustfully primal, at least in their minds, and could stray at any instance in time. Monogamy is cultural indoctrination, not biological inclination, at least for men. Women need to find someone to help them raise their offspring, so they have more of a vested interest in it, but throughout history, powerful, wealthy women did what they wanted, which often meant having multiple sex partners. I found an article that cited an essay by George Bernard Shaw, Polygyny and Polyandry, and Mark Twain in Letters from the Earth that both support the polyamory idea. Monogamy is even ingrained into our scientists, like the evolutionary anthropologist types who try to give it a positive bias, like David M. Buss in The Evolution of Desire, Strategies of Human Mating. Men worldwide want physically attractive, young, and sexually loyal wives who will remain faithful to them until death. These preferences cannot be attributed to Western culture, to capitalism, to white Anglo-Saxon bigotry, to the media, or to incessant brainwashing by advertisers. They are universal across cultures and are absent in none. Despite this great praise for monogamy, he neglects to mention the overwhelming presence of polygamy in most cultures until recent times, the overwhelming use of harems by the rich leaders of the past, the overwhelming use of prostitutes by men, and the fact that most men were considered to own their wives as one owns property. Therefore, sure, they expected loyalty from their wives till death, but it didn't mean that they expected to give their wives monogamous loyalty till death. It was always the double standard: man wanted his wife or wives, whatever the cultural ideal was at the time, but he also wanted either his harem or his treks to the prostitutes on the side. The reason for monogamy among some animals and birds seems to be that it takes a lot of energy to raise babies, so they pair up to share the chore and make sure the young ones make it to maturity so the species can continue on. In the animal world, the animal that probably comes closest to man in monogamy and the establishment of a family structure is the gibbon of the ape family, who bond as a couple and raise their children for 10 years or so, helping them get established on their own in their own territory. For some animals, they meet each other and have sex. 10 minutes later the guy splits, having done his job to impregnate the female, to move on to the next one, to be never seen again by this female and her offspring when she has them. But other species have courtships much like humans, becoming friends, hanging around with each other, trying to impress each other before they have sex and consummate the relationship. For some, it's serial monogamy, romancing a new girl every spring, staying with her for a few months. There are a rich variety of sexual combinations in the animal world. Some insects kill the male once they get his seed, like the proverbial black widow spider, also known as the widowmaker. About 3% of mammals are monogamous, while 90% of birds are. With primates, about 12% are monogamous if you include humans in with the apes, our closest ancestors. For most species, it's the territorial dominance theory: males claim a territory and it's theirs to breed with the females who enter, or the one sole alpha male of the tribe breeds with all the females. Biology is about one thing only: sexual reproduction. The social relationship part doesn't measure into it much. It's all about the strong bucks going around impregnating as many females as possible to pass their strong genes off, while the weak males stand off to the side and watch. But the social customs of the world have given every man his chance by promoting monogamy. In cases of monogamy in the animal kingdom, the biological explanation is that the man is needed to ensure the survival of the young, which is why some species have evolved to become monogamous. Some very similar species differ widely with respect to the monogamy promiscuity question. You can look at different human cultures worldwide, or some animals like California field mice, which are monogamous while Midwest field mice aren't. It's the culture you grow up in. Scientists doing studies on bulls in the field found that if they put one cow with a bull, he screwed her once and that was it, then he went off in the corner to be by himself. But if they brought another cow in, his sexual interest went up and he screwed her, lending credence to the theory that we're sexually aroused by a variety in females. It's logical to see that the guy wants pleasure and variety with different girls, but the girl, who's pregnant for 9 months and has to raise the kid, wants a guy to stick around and help raise it, hence, the creation of the family structure. Yet take this away and you will see that at man's core is a desire for sex with as many pretty girls as possible. This is really the bottom line. Commitment is a demanding chore for a lot of men and even some women. Monogamy is civilized, a product of civilization. Promiscuity is primal, a product of man's true nature. Many marriages of the past were economic and political, such that by marrying your neighbor or the guy in the different tribe, you helped form a bond between tribes. There was a lot of polygamy, group marriages, and polyandry. In tribes with more men than women, women had several husbands. Many marriages were for procreation and economic survival, not for love. The man's daughter was a commodity to be bought and sold as a wife to other men. In some cultures, the guy had to pay for the girl; in others, he got paid, a dowry, for taking her because she was considered a burden. Some biologist I saw on TV said that by comparing human male sperm with the sperm of traditionally monogamous species, men have so much more. By the law of biology, the sperm your body produces gives you horny feelings because it wants to be released all the time so that fresh new sperm can be produced. So by this line of thinking, we have enough sperm to impregnate many women, which is why he and I don't believe man is inherently monogamous with evidence from our biology. David Barish and Judith Eve Lipton wrote a book called The Myth of Monogamy, where they realized among animals and humans that they may have social monogamy, that is to pair off to keep a house together, but the inherent nature of most was not sexual monogamy. People and animals, male and female alike in general, fool around. When DNA studies were done on the babies of animal couples, quite often it was found that the baby wasn't fathered by the male who's hanging around tending to the house. Several scientific types, among them David M. Buss, The Evolution of Desire, 1994, B. Campbell, Sexual Selection and the Descent of Man, and P.R. Abramson and S.D. Pinkerton, Sexual Nature, Sexual Culture, have painted an interesting picture about the evolution of human sexuality called parental investment theory. Basically, a man invests a few minutes to create a baby, which is why men are sex addicts and cheaters. A woman invests 9 months in the pregnancy, then raises her baby, which is why women want monogamy, because they want a strong provider there to help them with the process. Since men can procreate with as many females as they want every day and women can only procreate once every 9 months, women are wired to sit around pregnant then raise the baby, while men are basically wired for sexual conquest. Of course, we've set up monogamous ground rules for ourselves called marriage, but by and large, is this really the true nature of men? Men want sexual pleasure with as many women as possible, women want to pick one guy who can help them raise the kids. It goes back to what I said elsewhere, women want a wallet, men want youthful beauty and health. Sex is necessary, love isn't. Plenty of people get by either pleasuring themselves and or having casual escapades with people they feel nothing strongly for. The sex is nice, the aftermath is a bother to many men and women alike. Some people can't be bothered with the social aspects of love or the requirement to be on all the time, trying to act cheery and nice. Many people just want to live in their own space, and love is a high price to pay to sacrifice this freedom for. With all the disposable sex available through the sex industry or interested casual partners, some people just can't give the effort it takes to love someone fully. I live for experience, just like I did when I was 22. I haven't finished exploring my life yet. I have no deep paternal need to raise kids. Life goes on day after day. If I get my dose of hedonism one way or another via the sex, drugs, rock and roll, relaxation ideology, I'm happy. Freedom is more appealing than trying to be on all the time with the same girl. Anybody with some money looking for a good time can find good time girls or guys who want to party, need a place to stay, or just want good sex, as in the case of swinger magazines and swinger websites. Casual sex works well for a lot of people. Watching all the movies and TV shows out there, we're all brainwashed into thinking that monogamy with a special person for a lifetime deal is the be-all end-all of life. This is the fantasy and the delusion, because the truth is that less than half of all people who get together these days stay together over a lifetime, and of all the people who stay together, life becomes a boring routine for a good many of them, a matter of managing life's affairs, basically roommates living in the same house, whatever passion they once had long gone after the first year. We all seem to want lifetime love but get bored living with one person longer than a year or so. It takes two very special people to keep the passion alive, and it also takes compromise. Living with someone is a compromise of your freedom to start out with, and it gets worse the longer you stay together, but maybe that's what people want, to be intertwined to one another such that they fit like an old shoe. The passion goes but they still stay together because it's comfortable. I've been intensely, passionately in love with girls who I fantasized that I could spend the rest of my life with, but I always ending up running away because I was afraid of life and felt I had to make it on my own, to seek my fortune without a girl around, which is why I sacrificed some earlier passionate relationships. But now as I age, the pressure is off, but this is where the dilemma comes in. I feel that I want true lifetime love with a special girl, kids, and all that, but then I turn around and realize I'm living a great life. There are plenty of uncomplicated, easygoing, and liberated girls around who live for the moment. As long as you treat them nice, talk to them a bit, buy them a few gifts, you can have fun with them. Then when you get bored or see someone else you like better, you can move on and nobody gets hurt or misses a beat, because that's the way of the world these days. A series of temporary relationships, one after the other, nothing too deep or heavy, you just keep going as long as you state that as your intention up front. If you leave a bunch of heartbroken kids in your wake along the way, well, that should be your responsibility, but most single guys who father babies never pay child support nor emotional support. The problem is that after you get married and the wife has a kid or two, she gets dumpy and frumpy while you keep seeing all these beautiful women on TV and out in the world. On a TV talk show, I saw a bunch of guys threatening to leave their wives because they had become frumpy. They showed pictures of these girls when they were younger and the way they looked now. There was a big difference. Many girls sit around the house all day and get ugly, yet, on the other hand, I've seen older ladies who take care of themselves well. It's not just the frump factor. It's also the boredom of life. Speaking for myself, I get bored easily and always need constant new stimulation in order to feel good about life. Even though I've been in love with beautiful women, the passion always wanes somewhat after 6 months, which is why I think the concept of polygamy, having several wives, is better than the concept of monogamy in a supposedly free society. With all the beautiful, young ladies around, many of them just waiting for a guy with a bit of money to show them a good time for a while, why would anyone want to realistically stick with one girl? I know she's got feelings, but the true nature of the beast is to procreate with the youngest, healthiest one, so if your girl gets old and frumpy, the attraction is always lost even though you stay together. Too many women let themselves go when they become mothers, and men don't like that. No matter how wonderful she is, you will see another 2 or 3 out there within a few months that turn you on too. Maybe you want that homey feeling of the traditional family with the picket fence like some Waltonish TV fantasy, but I'm too cynical for that. In order to go for a lifetime run, she's gotta be special, and there's gotta be that connection between you two where you feel totally comfortable being yourself with her. That's really it for me. I have to be able to be myself with my girl. I was with one girl who was nice, but she carried herself with a bit more dignity than I did, so I always felt pressure to live up to a higher standard when I was with her, whereas in reality, I'm a slob. I'm nice enough, but I'm basically an easygoing slob and don't care about cleaning up or walking around my house with my politically correct face on. I would be interested in a nice, down-to-earth girl who doesn't care that I pick my nose sometimes because she does it too, whereas with the other one, I wouldn't have done it. I would have picked my nose in the bathroom, but the point is that by her very presence, she was making me alter my behavior, whereas what I and every guy dreams about is a totally cool girl who lets you be yourself, and this is really very rare. So the point is that we get shacked up with somebody and soon find ourselves compromising our real selves because of our partner, and this soon gives way to the thought that she's not that hot, she's not really worth it, so the next thing you know, it's over. There's a book around called Against Love, a polemic. Is monogamy natural? 2. Spouses are impediments to great enterprises. Sir Francis Bacon. Woman wants monogamy. Man delights in novelty. Love is a woman's moon and sun. Man has other forms of fun. Woman lives but in her lord. Count to 10 and man is bored. Dorothy Parker. The psychology of adultery has been falsified by conventional morals, which assume, in monogamous countries, that attraction to one person cannot coexist with affection for another. Everybody knows that this is untrue. Bertrand Russell. The golden rule is don't pair up until you're totally ready and find a good one. Marriage is a fairly recent invention in human history. Sex is a natural desire. How many women does the average guy fantasize about sexually every day? Why do people say I'm bad because I don't want to be in a monogamous relationship? The measure of success according to the monogamy view is to have someone care for you in life, but how often does this really happen? Our society and the world in general throughout history have had this ritual of marriage in order to keep us stable as a group of people who are responsible for raising our children, otherwise we just screw whoever we wanted and move on, leaving the women to fend for their kids themselves or simply acquire little harems and kingdoms for ourselves. When Western explorers, Captain Cook, first landed on some of those Pacific islands, they saw natives who didn't know monogamy, people who screwed whomever they wanted when they wanted. Child rearing was a communal thing, so they had a field day, screwing all the women in exchange for the few trinkets they gave them. Sex in its purest form is simply pleasure. It doesn't really matter who it's done with as long as you get that feeling. Monkeys freely screw with whomever they please. Leave any horny guy and horny girl on an island somewhere and sooner or later, they're gonna be doing it regardless of how repelled they might have been to each other initially. Sex is the bottom line. People need it and the specific partner is secondary as long as there's a partner there. People are flexible. They can fall in and out love as often as they want to. All sex organs are equal. A man has a thing and a girl has a snatch. Anyone with a reasonable body will do to get the job done. Many men live for ego. Sex is just pleasure and conquest. We're bombarded by the media to see ourselves as sexual predators and women as sex objects, hence, many learn to be charmers and lead women on for a while then drop them like a hot potato. Women too are guilty of this phenomena. They will use men for a while then drop them and move on to the next guy with a bigger wallet. Such is the nature of our species. If you think about it, it has some basis in biological fact. To mate and reproduce with the best potential quarry out there, and as restless spirits we're never satisfied, so no sooner than you've gotten married will you see another who's just as good or better and you're lusting in your mind all over again. It never ends. Everyone lusts in their minds. In his book, Wilt Chamberlain said he was with 10,000 different women, which is physically impossible because of time constraints, considering you need at least 2 hours to court them beforehand, but anyway he ended it by saying he now appreciates making love to one woman in many different ways, so he was supposedly a monogamy convert before his untimely death. Is monogamy inherent? I really don't think so. I think it's culturally indoctrinated. Of all the animals in the animal kingdom, only 3% mate with one partner for life. We're the exception in the animal kingdom. When women are in heat, they chase after males and men are horny all the time. The estimates of how many people cheat range from 10% to 70%. Nobody really knows the truth, but there is some evidence to suggest that cheating is not necessarily sexual, it's largely done to get that emotional lift for ego that you're not getting at home. I enjoyed sharing my life with a few special girls, felt I needed them and felt lonely when I was away, but soon after I left them, I always saw another that attracted my fancy. Love with one beautiful person over a lifetime would be great if that person and you could both stay vital and young over a lifetime, but most people get boring and nerdy. You stay with somebody, you fall in love, you live together for a while, you get tired of each other and move on to find somebody else who excites you for a while. Men can do this easily because they can take care of themselves as they age, plus they can acquire money as an incentive, but women simply age and get ugly, thus reducing their chances for serial monogamy. Serial monogamy seems to be the trend in our society anyway. Get married, get divorced, try it again, get divorced again and keep spinning the roulette wheel until you meet one that fits or die along the way. The pattern of life in America seems to be serial monogamy over monogamy, meaning instead of one partner for life, people often go through several intermediate-term relationships. Many people get married or shack up with somebody they don't especially love, but it's a warm body until they see somebody better. Sure, we all dream of a passionate love affair followed by a lifetime of love and caring and beauty, but it just doesn't work out that way in 90+% of all cases. There are exceptions though. I see a few, although very few, older couples who truly still love each other after all these years. I don't mean just comfortable old shoes together, I mean true love. Many middle-aged and older guys check out the grass on the other side to see if it's greener via an affair, but invariably go back to their wives and stay there. The most common phenomena I've seen is the middle-aged successful guy with a bit of money dutifully raises his children, then when they're all out of the house, he leaves his first wife for someone 20 years younger than him. I see it a lot with the professional, educated over 45 male demographic. Any guy in this society with a bit of money to spend can have all kinds of girls because they're generally desperate for a man if they're over 25 and desperate for money if they're under 25. They feel they need a man more than a man needs them, so they will settle for a casual guy who treats them lukewarm because they feel they need to be with a guy so bad. A lot of young pretty ones have no money, so when some 45-year-old guy offers them a nice house to live in, a nice car, and offers to pay for their college tuition, it's not much of a stretch to know where you should go to do what's right for you. Then over time, you will bond to this guy and marry him because he's so nice to you, even if he's not the young dashing type. There are more women looking for men than men looking for women to fall in love with. A lot of older women are pretty cool in the way that you can be their friend and make love to them then leave. Some women actually prefer it this way, to have a stud service them then leave them alone. We have a huge subculture of casual, common law living arrangements which rarely go the lifetime route. You have the players trying to get as much sex as they can, followed by the marriage junkies who keep getting married looking for Mr. Right. Then you have all the married ones who are off somewhere cheating on each other. So it leads me to conclude that despite all the lovey-dovey, lifetime commitment fodder I was raised on in the movies and on TV, monogamy for a lifetime is a tough commodity. It's a cruel world if you let it be, and if you have to face it alone, it makes it that much worse. Men and women alike hate loneliness so much that they will go for a warm body that they don't particularly love just to relieve this feeling. Many people get married to people they don't love and think that the love will come in time, but often it doesn't. But it doesn't matter because you're with a comfortable, warm body, and any comfortable, warm body is better than no body at all. We all hate loneliness and fear it greatly, which is why we seek out love, but loneliness is just a fleeting feeling that you can get rid of by seeking out more stimulation, and we have a society that thrives on stimulation, so it's very easy in today's world to trade the possibility of love in a monogamous relationship for a lifetime of constant stimulation, never stopping long enough to feel lonely or have regrets. It's a tough gig, there are no easy answers. I will leave it at that. In the end, I have to go back to my father, who was so strongly connected to my mother that when she left to go on a trip for a few weeks, he felt lonely without her after over 30 years together. Everybody really wants somebody special to be there when they come back home after a hard day's work or whatever. Even old playboy Hugh Hefner went back to his Methodist roots to try to capture that Disney-esque perception of love by getting married at 63. In fact, Hefner never strayed far from his roots. He was described as a stranger at his own parties, a workaholic true to his Methodist roots even if it was for a sex magazine. An empty house is a drag after a while, no matter how many buddies, girlfriends, dogs, and beer you might have. I remember the story of former President Richard Nixon and how he grieved after his wife's death and died shortly thereafter. Growing old alone is a drag. There will be a point where you will look old and probably not be able to attract someone anymore, so starting at about 50 or so, if you want somebody to be there with you at the end, you'd better settle down and follow all that corndog advice in the previous pages. There is very little written against monogamy because it's so unpopular in a culture that reveres it. In The Anatomy of Love, A Natural History of Mating, Marriage and Why We Stray by Helen Fisher, 1992, an anthropologist in the tradition of Margaret Mead, does as good a job as anyone ever has in tackling the question of the nature of human sexuality based on history. I would say she's as passionate as Desmond Morris in her approach to her work, although a little more staid since she is, after all, an academic while Desmond writes for the pop crowd. There is a 4-part TV documentary floating around based on the book with the same title. Of the roughly 5,000 species of mammals, less than 5% form lifelong pair bonds like beavers, otters, wolves, elephants, some bats, foxes, and a few hoofed animals. Monogamy is a big indoctrinated idea. The man wants to sow his seeds far and wide. The woman looks for a guy with good genes who's willing to help raise the children. Biology says that men instinctively want to spread their seed. Monogamy can lead to a feeling of being trapped. Monogamy can devolve to two superficial friends being together to satisfy society's norms, not because they love each other. Biology tried to teach us about pair bonding species, that lasting monogamy is natural for us and many species of animals. Every single night on TV, there are shows promoting monogamy and children as the keys to happiness. The 1967 book The Naked Ape by zoologist Desmond Morris claimed that the evolutionary purpose of human sexuality is to strengthen the pair bond and maintain the family unit, but it's all a lie. All you have to do is listen to yourself away from cultural indoctrination. No man was born to be inherently monogamous. No man wants to waste his time raising kids, which is really a thankless job. Based on the results of genetic testing, we now know that most birds and animals we thought were monogamous aren't. They compare the baby's DNA with the alleged father's DNA and often find that the father who is helping raise the baby is often not the biological father. Research data on monogamy yield results something like 80% of males and 50% of females have sex with outside partners after marriage. Evolutionary psychology says that human beings are designed to fall in love, but they aren't designed to stay there. It is natural for both men and women to commit adultery or to suddenly find a spouse unattractive and irritating. It is natural to find somebody attractive superior to your spouse. The premise of evolutionary psychology is that we live to develop the species by transmitting our genes to the next generation. Why were men created? To get horny at the sight of any attractive female. Biology has proven that women are more likely to get pregnant by an outside lover than by their husbands because they're digging the sexual experience more. The law of nature has been polygyny. The strongest males fight or intimidate other males, so their brawny, aggressive genes get passed on, while the genes of less formidable males are deposited in the scrap heap of history. Men have such high sex drives compared to women in order to pass their genes on. One theory on why women cheat is because they want their babies to have the genes of superior, muscular men. Another theory is that evolution forced the creation of romantic love in order to get a man invested in raising kids. Why are humans so jealous? It's a great emotion to help keep a family united. Donald Simons, author of the 1979 classic The Evolution of Human Sexuality, said men are designed less for opportune desertion than for opportune polygyny. It's just that when polygyny is illegal, a polygynous impulse will find other outlets such as divorce. Just about everybody has a theory on why men and women have sex, fall in love and get married. I try to keep it simple by examining my true nature and living by it. I've read so much love and sex psychobabble by now that I don't believe any of it. I believe only in what I feel and think. All them phony experts, even the so-called rigorous academic ones, are a bunch of lost souls to me, all trying to preach the current mainstream line, not one of them strong enough to listen to themselves and tell people they should listen to that inherent essence that is their true nature, away from society's brainwashing machine that wants us all to be monogamous family men. How boring can this be? Lifelong monogamous devotion isn't natural. That's why we would be better off as a society if polygamy and prostitution were common, no big deal. Morality and religion train us to be considerate of other people's emotions so much that we've been brainwashed to think that sex outside of marriage is a great transgression, but the truth is that it's no big deal to bring another wife into a family or to hire a prostitute twice a week then go home to the family. It's too bad for me that I will die before society gets this enlightened. Couples are nowadays live together for long stretches and even have kids together before they marry, if they marry at all. The divorce rate has gone down because people are marrying less. Mammals and monogamy. I heard that the owl monkeys of South America are the only monogamous mammals in a podcast by a guy who studied them for 20 years. Then on a TV show I heard that elephants were monogamous mammals. Then I heard that certain field mice are monogamous, and that's it. Mammals that are monogamous do it to give their babies a higher chance to make it to adulthood, plus it seems peaceful this way. Most mammals are polyamorous. One alpha male has sex with most females and doesn't hang around to help raise the kids. Beta males have to go off to a new territory unless they want to challenge the alpha male in a fight. Sometimes they will steal a female, run away and set up life in a new territory. They will have sex with their daughters. Humans are biologically polygamous but adopted social monogamy in order to keep peace. If we didn't do this, some lord would have all the females in his castle. The beta males would unite to bump him off, then they would take 10 females each until the next gang of males came around to kill them and take their females. This is the way it went, at least for a while, in the ancient world. We are naturally polygamous. Current marriage laws are immoral because they do not allow us to have several spouses. Social monogamy is not the same as sexual monogamy. Biologists used to think that birds were monogamous, but with DNA testing, they found they're socially monogamous. The males and females each helped to raise the children, but quite often the babies were fathered by another male. Chapter 2. Monogamy 2. The Coolidge effect / quick renewable virility. The Coolidge effect is that when a new female is introduced, the male rat wants to have sex with her, but after a day or two, he's bored of her. His sex hormones revive to become sexually active when he sees a new attractive female. On a visit to a farm, President Coolidge's wife was shown a rooster who could copulate with hens all day long, day after day. She asked the farmer to let the president know about this, whereupon President Coolidge asked, "Does he do that with the same hen?" "No, sir," answered the farmer. "Please tell that to Mrs. Coolidge," said the president. To my way of thinking, this is a great argument why monogamy does not work. The Coolidge effect been observed in all tested male and female animals. Female rodents flirt more and present themselves more attractively when observed by new males than in the presence of males with whom they had already sex. Reuniting.info/science/Coolidge_effect. Watch the YouTube channel JRex918 and read the comments. Find the YouTube channel JRex918, the guy with glasses. Watch his videos against love and marriage, then read the comments that random people post.